Hello, everybody. My name is Michael, and welcome back to Last to First. So, day three is over. Preseason testing is over just like that at the snap of a finger. And wow, day three definitely told us a lot more. We're starting to get a better picture of what this season is going to look like. I know we can't glean too much from testing, but it is exciting to have a better idea of how it's all going to play out next weekend in the first race of the season. So let's get into my day three recap. So for the number of laps completed, Haas once again had the most number of laps at 169, despite the truncated running for the day and for the afternoon session actually being combined with the first half because of another drain cover issue. But yeah, still managed to get a ton of laps in with the 169 for Haas and a strong productive day for them. Ferrari, another one to look out for here this year. They got 145 laps today, which is really encouraging. They're showing some good promising signs. RB came in at third at 123 laps. Williams at 121. Aston at 121. Red Bull 119. Mercedes 116. Sauber at 113. McLaren 111, and Alpine coming in last at 102 laps completed. So yeah, once again, a very tight spread there. Didn't seem to be as many reliability issues today across the teams, or at least ones that completely hampered the team, like in the first 2 days for Williams and McLaren. But McLaren had some more struggles today for day three, and yeah, some clutch issues for Norris, which is not ideal. But taking a look at the top 10 here, starting with the fastest lap, first was Charles Leclerc. He had a 1 minute 30-second .322, and that was on the C4 laps. So not the quickest lap of the weekend, but still a strong one. It seems that overall the track was a little bit slower on day three than it was in day two. Just for some reason, the track temperatures just didn't seem to suit the cars as well, just because overall in race pace and in quality they were or quality simulation laps they were a little slower overall. But another strong day for Ferrari, which is good to see. Seems like they might be the second closest to Red Bull, even though it does seem to be quite a ways off regardless. But George Russell brought up seconds, .046 off of Leclerc, so pretty tight there. Zhou Guanyu, who had a late glory run on the C4 tires, managed to get .325 seconds off of Leclerc. Sauber, definitely not expecting them to be up there like that. I think they're probably in the back four teams, but yeah, it's still good to see Zhou Guanyu way up there. Max Verstappen only fourth, .433 seconds off the pace, but there was a tire offset. He had the C3s, so there's bound to be a good half a second to 0.6 of a second difference there between those tires. But boy, oh boy, Red Bull looking ominous still, even by day three. Yuki Tsunoda fifth. He was .453 seconds off the pace. And yeah, it's a lot closer gaps on day three here today. I think because teams were starting to do some type of quali simulations, and I'm sure qualifying is going to be super tight this year, particularly between the ones chasing Red Bull like Ferrari, Mercedes, and McLaren, maybe Aston, and then the back four teams of Sauber, Williams, Haas, and Alpine, surprisingly there. All going to be super tight. And now Alex Albon in the Williams came sixth, .662 seconds off the pace, followed by Piastri in seventh, .708 seconds off the pace. Fernando Alonso in eighth, .837 seconds off the pace. Carlos Sainz, .925 seconds. And Perez coming in at 1.161 seconds off the pace. Now for my team ratings for day three, for the final day of testing, starting with Haas, I'm giving them a 9 out of 10. I think they had another strong day. They've had a pretty good-looking test overall for each day. They haven't had any problems that have really hampered them. They certainly don't look the quickest, but they had the most laps again today. The car just looks steady and seems to be a better base than what it has been before. They seem to have found some positive gains in race pace and in tire wear, but they may have sacrificed some quality performance for that better race performance, which is probably good. Need to have a bit more of a balance because it was so offset before. But interestingly, that's kind of how the Ferrari is looking as well, having less of a difference between race and quality pace. So you can kind of see the traits of the Ferrari coming through into the Haas. But yeah, Haas overall, I mean, they're probably the slowest. They're looking to be in that back four of the grid with Alpine, Williams, and Sauber. But yeah, probably going to be last to at least start off the season. Now, next with Sauber, I'm giving them an 8 out of 10. Kind of similar to Haas. They look steady and stable, just not super quick. They don't appear to have made big gains like they really need to ahead of the Audi takeover, but they actually might be quicker than Alpine and probably definitely quicker than Haas as well. So I guess that's positive as well. But they really just need to find some good performance, even though the car looks to be stable and steady. They need to start making a bigger step. Next with RB, I'm giving them a 10 out of 10. They're looking really impressive given the structure of that team. They had a strong number of laps completed, and really they're seeming to be on their own, kind of like Alpine was last year, as sixth fastest ahead of the back four teams. But they are probably a bit behind those top four teams. But they might be chomping at the bit at Aston Martin a little bit, interestingly. So they're definitely looking quick. The car seems to be doing what they want it to do. Overall, looks quick. Has some good promising signs, or there's some good promising signs for RB ahead of the season. Williams, I'm giving an 8 out of 10. They've just been kind of quietly optimistic. They don't have the fastest car by any means, or the most sophisticated car in the grid, but they've seemed to got it into a better working window. Seems to be a lot less sensitive to the wind, which is good for them. They really struggled with that in Bahrain last year. Like I mentioned, it doesn't seem to be absolute slowest like Haas, but it is in that back four fighting for seventh, which would be another good result for them for this year. Williams is still on a long road back to fighting for anything more, but fighting for seventh would be great. I think Sargent's performance this year will really be key in that battle. If it's the Albon show again, then I think Williams is probably definitely going to lose out on a few constructor spots this year like they almost did last year. Alpine, what a disappointment. I'm giving them a 4 out of 10 for their last day here. Just overall, they are just not looking very good. It's pretty surprising even for Alpine's history. They had the least laps completed today. They've apparently hit their goals of what they wanted to get done, but they are just plain slow. They're struggling with grip. The car is potentially overweight, and they seem to be the ninth slowest, which is pretty insane and not good enough for a works team. I know they're in another rebuild phase, but yeah, I mean, how many more excuses can we give Alpine and the Renault team, Renault group there? I don't know. We'll see. Hopefully they have a better season than what it's looking like. Now, Aston, I'm giving a 7 out of 10. Once again, I feel like Aston hasn't had any standout moments over the course of the past 3 days, whether good or bad. They say they've hit their targets and they made a step with the car. They say they're in a better place for in-season development, which is good, but it just doesn't feel like a fast enough car to challenge for best of the rest. I think they are a bit behind McLaren, Mercedes, Ferrari, and maybe even Red Bull, or not Red Bull. That's my first mess up of the season with RB. I think even RB might be challenging them a bit for the outer reaches of Q3 and outer reaches of the points. But I think overall their goal is to just have a better platform to be able to develop on throughout the season rather than immediately start out strong, since they did struggle with that development throughout the year last year. They definitely need to make that a focus to get stronger throughout the year. McLaren had a challenging day. I'm giving them a 6 out of 10. And it wasn't the worst day ever, but just overall across testing, they've had some little reliability concerns kind of make their way through. Norris had a clutch issue that caused them to lose a lot of laps today. And yeah, just a lot of these small little reliability issues that have me a bit worried. I don't know. People aren't talking about it too much. Maybe it's more normal than I think it is, but I do fear a little bit for McLaren because of all these small issues here that are starting to creep up a bit more frequently than I feel some of the other teams are having. But yeah, I think McLaren is still right up there, no doubt, with the best of the rest. I think Ferrari probably is the best of the rest behind Red Bull, but McLaren is probably the third or fourth quickest, right there with Mercedes. We don't really know what Mercedes is looking like yet. But speaking of Ferrari, moving on to them, I'm giving them a 10 out of 10. They had overall a really great preseason test. They started off okay, and then into day 2 and day 3, they've had some really good, positive, productive days. They had a lot of laps completed today, and yeah, they're showing really strong race and qualifying pace. They still seem to be behind Red Bull, almost certainly, but they might be not comfortably second quickest, but they do appear to be second quickest. Their race trim seems to be particularly strong, and the car is a lot more drivable, better on its tires. But kind of what I mentioned with Haas as well, they just seem to have a better balance this year between race pace and qualifying pace, which is good. That's something that they really needed to work on since they got like 6 poles last year, if I'm not mistaken, and then only that one win in Las Vegas there. But yeah, it'll be good to have more of a balance for Ferrari. So Mercedes, I'm giving them a 9 out of 10, and they've just been quietly getting on with their testing, not really chasing performance. Even though they were the second quickest on day 3, they did do some type of qualifying pace, but yeah, they're still just doing so much behind the scenes to understand this whole new concept. They haven't really shown their full hands yet. They're just learning about their entirely brand new car. I'd say Mercedes have the most to learn since they changed up their car the most between last season and this season. But they are probably third or fourth quickest, but right there with Ferrari, McLaren, and then probably Aston a little bit behind. But they're still right there. So they have, I think, a good window. Or a high ceiling, I should say, that they can have throughout the year if they can start to get a hold of this new concept. And interestingly, they were once again another point of talking. First, it's been the front wing over the course of testing, and now it was that they changed their front suspension to do some tests there. So pretty interesting there. They had some more anti-dive on the front suspension. So we'll see how everything comes together, what they wind up with come Bahrain. Lastly, Red Bull, once again, got to give them a 10 out of 10. I mean, they're almost certainly the quickest, and they've got to be the favorites for the year. The ease at which the drivers can get a good lap time out of the car is really scary and ominous. Rivals are predicting a half a second, maybe a second gap to them. Either way, they're worried that it might be an even bigger gap than last year. So even though it is almost impossible for Red Bull to do better than last year since they won all but one race, it is possible for them to do even better, which would make for quite the long season given there's 24 races. Even though I figured that Red Bull would be the quickest, seeing it for real definitely dampens the hopes of the season. I hope that the other teams can give them a run for their money, at least on occasion, just to make for some interesting races. But it's going to be tough. I mean, like the Mercedes domination before, once a team gets an advantage, the other teams not only have to do at least develop at least as much as the team that's ahead, but they have to develop and get even quicker than them. So they have all the other teams have a really big gap to make up to Red Bull. So it's going to be a tough ask. Tough to say if anything is going to change between now and 2025, since the FIA doesn't seem to want to switch up any rules, which is fair enough. And just wait for 2026 to see how the order changes up then. But can't blame Red Bull for the other teams lagging behind. They're just doing an incredible job. So that's testing wrapped up. 3 days of testing done and over just like that. And yeah, starting to getting an idea of what the pecking order is going to look like for this first bit of the season. And yeah, it's going to be mighty, mighty tight behind Red Bull by the looks of it. So at the very least, should be pretty entertaining battles behind Red Bull, and there will be a lot of good storylines to look out for throughout the year regardless. But thank you guys for tuning in to my 3 recaps of testing. Look out for my upcoming podcasts about the races, as well as my YouTube channel as well. So thank you for tuning in to another day, and I'll see you guys in the next one.